So I've started recording, David, just in case you're saying anything. You need to, I think, sort of consent to being recorded. I think you need to unmute yourself as well.
Okay, well, I'm glad we
Perfect.
recorded all of that. Uh, well, I'm sure it can be edited, but
Yeah.
let me see if I can record on my end as well. I wonder if maybe not. Anyhow, all right. Well, we're here today, James. Thank you for being here to do something very special and something I've been waiting for many, many years to do a second time, and that's create a bespoke blend for K&L wine merchants with our dear friends at Compass Box Whiskey, and it's a pretty exciting experience because uh, I never really get to do these blending exercises. I get to taste a lot of other people's whiskeys,
Mhm.
but very rarely help to create them. And of course, I'll just be following behind our expert here as he takes us through the various options. But we do have indeed the necessary tools. A nice little graduated cylinder here, some glasses. I've got some bottles for later, but I'm going to keep them open in the glass and see how they change. Um, how many blends are we doing, James?
So I thought we would maybe do the three.
Okay.
So we'd kick off. You're more than welcome to pour out what you've already got, maybe still left in one of your sample bottles there. But yeah, I see you've got your components putting down, and I have the same thing. I know that in our conversations subsequent to the or before this, we did have a few styles identified, and you wanted things a little bit peatier, maybe a little bit more sherried as well. So certainly for the purposes of today, we can take people through that first version that I created for you guys, or at least you should be able to create it with your samples. I've decided to focus on just the new ones that we may be proposing today, and then yeah, we can just go from what you liked about that one, and then we
Beautiful.
can talk about the next version.
I think this might be your original proposed version. Is that correct? The V3?
Correct. Yeah. So we can speak
Yeah.
to that. I can obviously put up my screen what the recipe actually was, and we can just have a chat about it.
Beautiful. Yeah, let's just start there.
Okay.
Tell us about
So
this blend.
so I'm bringing up the little recipe sheet that we have been working together on. And so this very first recipe, we knew we wanted something kind of reminiscent of that first Fifth and Harrison release, which was basically a lot of old Glenord, a lot of old Kalila. And so we decided to sort of sidestep that a little bit using Bamor, which is a lighter smoke than Kalila, and using the Glendullans, which are around about the close in age to that particular Glenord that we used a few years ago, but overall a lighter sherry approach. And so I think it says first fill sherry on our sheets, but as I'm sure you, David, will know very well, when you see a stock sheet and it says one thing and you get it in the glass and it can sometimes behave like quite another. But this is all part of the fun of Scotch whisky and whisky in general. So these Glendullans, one of them a little bit fuller than the other, as you can see, just the 10 litres of alcohol predicted in one of those. And so I don't know, David, if you want to hold up the redder looking one. There you go. So yeah, that's a tiny, tiny amount of liquid left in there, but it does have a nice flavour to it. As you can see on this percentage breakdown, it's really tiny, so it's rounded up to 2, but that'll probably be around about 1.5% in that
Hmm.
final recipe. So yeah, I don't know if you wanted to pour it into your glass, let the good people who follow what you do and all the stuff you bottle. I'm sure they're really keen to hear as a first step what I created here in London, to a few recipe variations that we discussed earlier. What you think is coming out for you with this one?
So, I, I mean, on the first nosing, beautiful fruit, salty fruit, and an obvious Isla forward nose, but It's balanced. There's a little bit of that beautiful kind of almost ozony kind of wildness to it here, and that gorgeous fruit behind that again here. So balanced and rich. The peat does, the Bowmore. It's so many different things. The different types of Bowmore you see,
Yeah.
and I think that's one thing about that distillery is that, it has so many faces to it. This kind of and maybe that's the Glendullan speaking to it, but it's kind of highlighting two sides of Bowmore for me. That tropical fruit, which very rarely has the salt kick to it that you're getting here. So maybe we've got a salty Bowmore. I mean, we have the components here, and then the fruit of the Glendullan, which gives you that tropical side of Bowmore, maybe. Guessing, but it's absolutely awesome. I'd be happy with this today. We'd absolutely crush, and maybe after this exercise, this will still be the big winner.
Yeah, we'll see. But
I'm
I
sure we
love
will.
that salty fruit, that salty tropical fruit, and that was with the Bamor. We've gradually, certainly when I started discovering this parcel, we first used it in a big way for No Name 3 back
Mm.
in
Oh, I love
2021.
that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and despite the fact it was only like 11% of that recipe, it really does pull the strings. There's a lot of really important things happening in that blend that just would not be as compelling, as multidimensional, were it not for this Bumor. So it is incredibly oily. There is certainly for this composite, there's a more delicate smoke than we found for the casks that went into No Name 3, but fruit all day long. And so
Yeah.
yeah, when I combined these two casks of Glendullan, one very very low, and then the Bamors, wow, just I sort of put it as peated vanilla ice cream. And there was
Mm.
part of me, when I dropped the samples off with Sunny, who heads up Compass Box in Southern California. There was a part of me that was like, this feels California appropriate. Like it's like old
Yeah,
old whiskey for a warm climate.
yeah. It. I wouldn't go so far as to say it's a beach whiskey, but it definitely is an ocean driven style. But has that suppleness, that sort of. It's just, I hate doing this, but it's pretty sexy. It kind of has this very voluptuous openness while being really quite intense in character. Is this the refill Bowmore at 53.6? Is that the base whiskey here we're dealing with?
Correct. Yeah.
So and that's a refill bourbon, right?
Correct. Yeah. So I think possibly second fill. There's still a reasonable amount of sort of vanillin going on in there. And yeah,
Yeah.
as you can see, thanks, David, the color is pretty good. But definitely it's allowing the spirit to really sort of strut its stuff.
Mm, mm.
I love this, and it's an interesting word you used. The sexy one. The word that's been often used in our blending room was dirty, and not in a sexy way. So I think actually the Glendullan is potentially helping to round out some of the more dirty features.
Yeah.
Obviously, that whiskey still has them, but it's been sort of harnessed to the
Well,
greater good.
this isn't one of the super tropical mangoey Bowmores, right? This is a bit more rugged, and you're not get. I mean, there's fruit there, but you're not getting that kind of pure mango that you get on some of these, which is exactly as I expected. The Glendullan adding that third and fourth layer here, or maybe teasing some of that out,
Yeah.
because it may be behind that intensity of flavor. It is a bit dirty on its own. That's true, but this when put together, it becomes quite sexy and pretty and open and fruit forward. I love that. So okay, so we know we love that. That goes without saying.
Yeah.
What's our next step here?
So you are more than welcome to try them over there where you are. We also sent you a little sample of Craigellachie in sherry casks.
Oh,
And there's a couple of different Glendullan sherry butts that we sent for you as
nice.
well. There was also a little bit of Kalila. So after you tasted that a few days ago, you said to me it would be lovely if we could amp up There you go. It would be lovely if we could amp up some of that sherry and some of the smoke. And
Yes.
so, with the same samples that I gave to you in California, in my office here in London, I tasted through a couple of different versions. And so, the Craigellachie does have a more obvious, overt Oloroso cask character. My feeling when I put all that together was it just flattened out a lot of the wonderful notes that the Bowmore and the Glendullan had. And the way the Glendullan sherry was showing was really kind of different. You know, we don't necessarily know the provenance of these particular casks. We do know that they are probably not the first fill that they claim to be. But what that has done is it's given a very soft sherry character. And so I would hate for us to lose that in this. And so, yeah, my experience putting the Craigellachie in, a much younger whiskey as well, sort of 10 years younger on average than most of what we're using. And yeah, it added some richness, some obviously that meatiness, but ultimately it didn't gel. And then I tried an older Oloroso cask just to sort of see, is this still the right way we want to go? And still, it was taking away from that sort of really lush fruit, which I think is such a special component in this blend. So if we want more sherry, I would suggest, because again, if I bring the recipe table up. So over on this side, hopefully everybody can see this, but you have a few Glendullans that I sent. So there's this tiny one here, and I don't think we actually, it's going to be meaningless. It's going to be negligible based on what we actually want. So I think we're going to go for this, and I'm just going to move this over here. So for that first recipe, we used this cask, 309759 at the 140, and this is actual litres of alcohol in the cask. So we had these regauged up in Scotland before taking them over to the US. So what I would suggest for recipe 2 is that we bring in, so recipe 2 was just basically bringing in the Caol Ila 2001, so making it more smoky, but keeping the same sort of balance between Glendullan and Bowmore. So just sort of adding this Caol Ila cask on top. So I'd suggest we kick off with that one. So which one have we got here? We've got 359. Perfect. And so I'm going to half this. In fact, I'm probably going to divide it by 4 because I don't need quite that much.
Yeah.
So if I take 18 mils, I'm trying to make a 25 mil for this. So if I take 18 mils of our Bowmore, it's filling the house with perfume, which is great. And then I take the Glendullan, that is 5.
Five of which Glendullan? Are we talking the?
So we're talking the one that's the 140 litres of alcohol. So the cask number 759.
759. I have it here. Perfect. 5 mLs of that.
Yeah. And because we want a little bit more of the smoke, we've got some Caol Ila 2001 refill hogsheads. Pretty good strength on these, 54.5% for the one I've got here. And we need 2 mils of that.
Just a sploosh.
Just a sploosh.
Do it.
Boris. So that is going to go
right on
into the test tube there.
Oh, wow. You smell that, Caol Ila.
Yeah, it really does assert itself. And so suddenly, for me, you're getting much more of that tarry rope. You're getting a different texture going on in this one. So I've already tried this back in the blending room a few days ago, and I will say that, you know, and I wish we were in person, David, it would be a little bit more organic. But The way I'm finding this right now is actually really quite balanced. Normally, we would like to leave our blends when we've just created them for at least a day, just to let
Yeah.
everything kind of mingle. But this at what should be, what, yeah, somewhere between 53 and 54%. It's absolutely stunning. It has this really perverse almost combination of really delightful old sweet shop and really grungy car mechanic garage
Mm.
workshop.
Yeah, that definitely takes us into a different direction. Just that tiny little.
Yeah. Super medicinal for me, like a licorice kind of thing coming through, which I know isn't for everybody, but for me in this context is a real asset.
Yeah, definitely adding an industrial character here. That old sort of car thing. Something I love. The Kalila does stand out. I mean, it's incredible to see them next to each other. That
Yeah,
uh, uh, maybe, of course, the added time in glass here has softened this, but
definitely.
this is a totally different world. This may be a little closer just because of the Kalila to the original Fifth and Harrison, but I still have a sample of that somewhere in the other room.
Yeah, this for me is really making me think. I've only been on Isla once, but and it was in the summer. But I still think about whenever you read tasting notes from Isla distilleries, and there's this sense of bog and rain and wet and
Yeah,
kind of very kind of sodden sheep, and that's kind of what's coming through
definitely.
for me
And
here.
that
Yeah,
tarry rope thing. I mean, instead of being beachy, it's more old sailboat in crusty, salty.
yeah. I think we've changed season as well. Like you made the really great comparison. Yeah, bring it back to the beach, and our first one is the beach. It's kind of summer, height of summer, and this is now, yeah, we're into the fall, we're into autumn, and things are a little bit more mulchy.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, man, blending scotch is really fun, huh? This is what you do
Yeah,
every
right.
day.
I actually get to do this every day.
That's not a bad life, huh?
Yeah, the Kalila, obviously a stalwart at Compass Box. We love bringing it into conversation with other whiskies, and the famous combination that we struck upon, the Kalila Kleinlich sort of 1-2 punch is really really good. But again, with the Bowmores at this age and that sort of fruit character, the Glendullans as well, this is
Hmm.
really quite enjoyable.
Yeah, it's you know it's hard to decide what's best for the world, but I'll have to take some time with both of those.
For sure.
Um, and I mean, but that first one is just so open.
Mm.
Anyway, well, that you said that licorice thing, and at first I wasn't getting, and now I'm getting, those Scandinavian, th- that smell of my dad loves those things, man.
Yeah.
This is definitely an old man's whiskey now suddenly,
Mm.
which is not a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, I
Mm,
think this Kalila it gives it an extra rootedness. There is something there is real aged character here, which I think is delicious. It's just whether, as you say, and I found this in the office, whether that Kalila at this point is a little bit too strong.
yeah.
So I do think there's an extra version we can do, very subtle tweak, but it involves taking less of our Bamor, bringing
Okay.
in the slightly fuller Glendullan butt, and then keeping that one cask of Kalila in there, and that should potentially just allow the smoke to combine a little bit better.
All
So
right.
let's
Let's try that out. What's your recipe here?
so if we scroll down to recipe 3, here we go. We've got the fuller Glendullan butt here. Still using that hogshead of Kalila. So So now we're going to go 15 for more.
Okay, 15 on the dot.
And then get our Glendullan, and we need 7 of that. So take it up to...
Same cast, the 5.
This is the fuller one, so it should have 196 in terms of liters of alcohol and be cask 309761.
761, got it.
So yeah, slightly lighter profile, but very, very similar to the one we used in the previous version.
And we're doing 7 here.
7 here. And then while this is actually the same percentage, 100%, it's the same percentage in terms of liters of alcohol, just because of the relative difference in strength, this Glendullan being much higher. We actually need a touch more of the Caol Ila for this recipe. So we're going to put 3 mils into this one.
Okay, success.
And then into our next glass. Huh, wow. It's amazing how different.
Yeah, another totally different expression. How is that possible? What is the chemistry behind that? It seems outrageous.
Yeah, that Bamor is carrying so much character, and so I think at its original volume, comparing your first glass from the bottle to the second whiskey or the first whiskey we created here on the recording, that Bamor is still bringing the fruit, bringing the oils, but yeah, you take it down, and so in the glass, it's gone from 18 down to 15 mils. And it's a much gentler experience. Just initially out of the glass, I'm getting like a smoked agave kind of quality to it. There's a real baked earth kind of note.
It is definitely more confectionery on the nose. Still earthy, but lacks that hard edge that the second blend has. But the Caol Ila somehow taking a back seat here, despite being more prevalent.
Yeah.
What a funny thing. Still tiny bits of that licorice thing. A little bit earthy, tarry kind of note, but
yeah.
Wow, that's delicious. Oh man, this is just getting harder and harder, James.
And yeah, we've only tweaked the recipe very, very slightly. So yeah, when you're dealing with whiskies of this age and this kind of distinctive character, even just fresh out, and obviously they will, and you said it, David, keep them in the open, see how they evolve with a little bit of time and oxygen. They will kind of find a different equilibrium. But yeah, they are remarkably different. I'm now getting like a rhubarb note to this latest one.
This really speaks to the true challenge of a blender's job, and in some ways you have a luxury compared to the big guys, because of course you have to blend your core SKUs and make them consistent, but just thinking about doing this for a brand like Chivas or Johnny, and we know they're maybe not as precise, but the consistency that they're able to produce in that context is outrageous. Really, is it because they've they are taking the time to do that, or just the recipe and the consistency of the cask is so dialed in? What is your, I mean, they were kind of getting off topic here, but like, how do they do that in such a broad scale, as compared to this, where you're obviously seeing, huge differences just in this cask versus that cask, or 3 mLs versus 2 mLs? Do you have an opinion on that, or is it just the magic of Scotch?
Yeah, well, I would hate to in any way diminish the magic of Scotch. That's of course a big part of what Compass Box is here to deliver. But yeah, having had the privilege of working for Chivas Brothers in their blending team for a couple of years, the recipes are dialed in. They've been making Chivas 12 for decades, and the advantage if you're someone like Pernod Ricard is you have a lot of your own distilleries, and you can dial in from day one. You can dial in the character you think you'll need for a Chivas 12, a Chivas 18. And then, yes, the cask makeup is extremely broad, from first fill, refills, multiple refills, maybe some rejuvenated casks as well. So they have enough complexity built into the recipe that the final coming together can be a little bit more assured, if you like. But still, when I was there, every cask for something like a Chivas 18, the grain, the malt, every cask would be nosed by someone on the blending team before they were dumped, because still
Really?
yeah, absolutely. With the big guys, I think it's often not talked about enough that there is a really robust quality control going in there. And what Compass Box is about is actually it's almost taking the opportunity to, instead of trying to make it the same, my challenge, and for anybody who works with Compass Box, is okay, we've got a next Orchard House, we've got another, even Crimson Casks, which we just launched this year, but we're already preparing the next vatting of that. How can we make it a little bit better? That's kind of our challenge. So
Yeah.
and obviously for something like this, which is just a few hundred bottles for K&L wine merchants and then it's gone, we can be a little bit more playful, if you like. But yeah, the big guys and us, we're thinking really hard about how we can ensure continuity. But when there is an opportunity to showcase a different side to a distillery or a different cask type, we'd like to take it at Compass Box.
Well, and I love that idea that you're constantly improving rather than having to chase this center, chase this flavor that your customers may be after. Because ultimately, the people who have graduated to Compass Box, so oftentimes they're coming back from single malt, probably single cask single malts. They're already buying IBs and single cask, and they want something that delivers a consistent experience in terms of quality, but they surely don't demand having the same flavor every single time, because they're already graduated. And of course, you want to bring people in who are used to drinking Johnny Walker or Chivas, because I think you're providing incredible value for the quality of the product for the dollar is extremely high. But that's the other way. You're coming in through the back door a little bit that way, whereas your products speak, and certainly something like this speaks to the most expert level drinkers. I challenge anybody to take an independent bottling single cask, or even a distillery bottling, from one of these distillers. We haven't talked about the price point on this, but and deliver a similar experience for what this will cost on the shelf, which is not inexpensive. But I mean, finding a 22-year-old Bowmore period is nearly impossible these days. So so much value in this one glass. It's just, and it's created by you, and that's I think it's so exciting and interesting for us. But gosh, these are so fun. I'm gonna taste these all day here, James. I think we've accomplished what we set out to do here, and I really appreciate your flexibility in getting this done. I know it would have been great to do it face to face. Maybe for the next one, huh?
Maybe the next one.
Any excuse to go to London, you know me. I'm ready to go. But I really appreciate you, and I'm so excited for this project. And I think I'll have an answer by end of day here between these three. But I've kind of got an idea of where we're gonna go with it. And I'm gonna covet this this the leftover sample of Bowmore that you very generously given me here.
Yeah, don't let that out of your sight.
I surely won't. No, that's coming home with me. Anything else you want to say to our customers about this project before I let you go?
Just to say that obviously a big part of Compass Box is how it looks as well. You know, the amount of time and effort we put into the recipe. We do the same thing when it comes to the labels, and it's something that we're known for, something that people look forward to. And so I know the ideas that you, David, and the K&L team have about how this release will look and flow. I think people are going to really love it. It's going to bring that Californian spirit to your new store, and obviously the rest of the K&L network. So yeah, really excited to see how it takes shape, and yeah, can't wait to hear which recipe ultimately you prefer. I think there are so many strong ones here. Certainly when I tried this second one in the office, I was getting certainly on the nose and on the palate, not so much on this day here, but there was something about uh, substances which are now legal in California. Just that little echo. So again, that could be an interesting one. But yeah, I love the extra but more influence going on in certainly the first one we tried and this first one that we've made. It's a great spirit, and yeah, as you say, this should retail for a really compelling price as well.
Yeah. Well, and it's all thanks to you and the hard work you've done. So I salute you for that, and look forward to doing many more of these over the years to come. When you're ready, you know, of course I'm ready. But yeah, let's reconvene shortly after we let these settle a little bit, and I'll get you an answer today about what we're going to pick. All right.
Amazing. Thank you, David.
Thanks,
Thanks again.
Appreciate your time.
Right.
Be well.
Bye.
Bye-bye.